This was a beautiful day, but not your typical day. Nothing was going to be the same after this. Literally. Something was stirring, and the drama that would come with it was like going to dinner with your in-laws. Not everyone wants to deal with that. However, you might think that coming into the world, you were expected to be loved, but that's all he ever wanted. Who's he? Well, you're gonna find out all about that. Now, let's set the scene. Two little demons argue over what to name their newborn baby. One of them suggests something nice, simple, like Drake. But of course, the other insists on something cooler. Yeah, they do sound a lot like your in-laws, don't they? And just like that, the poor kid is tagged with Dracula. A name that only a mother could love. I mean, honestly, if I would have known that I was going to be named Dracula, I would have just told her to go with Plan B. But oh well, here he is. So, obviously Dracula is doomed to be bullied into submission like he was going up against Stone Cold Steve Austin after a few beers, and the bottom line is, at one point you just gotta give up. What you don't realize is that you're in for one roller coaster ride of your life.
Give me a hell yeah!
Fast forward a little bit to Dracula as a goth teenager. Imagine being a teenage vampire in a world that thinks goth is just a phase. For him, it's more of a lifestyle, obviously. He was still learning as a youth what it meant to be part of society, and the kids mocked him relentlessly for his inability to count. I know, ironic. You'd think that poor guy had COVID the way all the other kids were socially distancing themselves. The frustration builds and keeps building, and then one day he just snaps. After waking up to an accidental bloodbath, unlike a boner like most of us guys would do, he quickly realized that it was no wet dream, and it actually happened. Terrifying to say the least, but something came out of it. He learned how to count from all those dead bodies that were laying on the ground. From awkward emo kid to Count Dracula, the myth, the legend, rises to his destiny of becoming the Prince of Darkness. That's not the end of it, though. Becoming an adult in those times was not for the faint of heart. I can relate to this on so many levels. I mean, I know I'm not a vampire, but it's still a struggle. Now, as a grown-ass man, Dracula finds himself in the limelight, but fame comes with a price. With headlines like, "Vampire terrorizes villagers," you'd think he was some kind of rock star, but realistically he was just moving in such a way that it would later become TikTok trends. But it's not all blood-sucking and carriages and being allergic to the sun. There's also a downside. He couldn't see himself in the mirror. He didn't know if he had the face of Susan Boyle or Brad Pitt, the poor bastard. After all this time, it was still a mystery to him. In a moment of desperation, he decides to cover himself in ink to see his reflection. Brilliant idea, you may be saying. But then, he discovers that sunlight on his skin feels like a bad breakup. And when he gets older with a migrating hairline, he most likely will embody the look of Donald Trump under bad lighting. And just like that, he became more sensitive to sunlight than a redneck who just realized he's fighting for his rights to engage in racial discrimination. Doesn't matter what color the guy's confronted with. We all know the type. Consequently, he had to go into hiding for a while, like being on the run from the feds like a total badass. But what's this? Love at first sight? Something he has never experienced before. It was all very new to him. He couldn't take his eyes off of this woman and wondered what kind of sorcery is this? It wasn't the eyes or the smile that got him as he was walking behind her. He ends up falling for a woman with a very dark secret. Can you guess what it is? Well, you guessed right, probably. It was a hidden agenda. Because who needs peace in their life, am I right? Hashtag relationship goals. Talk about bad luck. He didn't have a clue what he was getting himself into. He gets within social distancing range and catches a whiff of her garlic breath and cringed at the fact that it turned him on. This was a moment of realization that would endure indefinitely. She was not only smarter than him, but also far more experienced in the dating world. After all, he had found her wandering the streets of Romania during those particularly dark times. But you should never underestimate the power of love. Wise words, well spoken. Thank you. You're welcome. They ended up getting married by a priest who was sweating like he'd just been caught in a brothel. However, little did Dracula know that just a small bite, or even a little taste, would make this woman turn on him. Like, turn into a vampire, and the thing is, she knew that, of course, but he didn't. Despite the garlic breath and his ridiculous tan, they were inseparable. Nothing was going to come in between them. Later down the track, when time flew by, he realized that his wife wasn't getting any older, which made him very suspicious. She claimed it was her appointments for Botox, and then changes her story to daily skin routines. But it never sat well with Dracula. Turns out she was a vampire and lying the whole time about her everlasting youth. Dracula always had a hunch about her, as she would suck the life out of his soul, draining him in so many ways. Finally, the moment of realization came all at once. He was blinded by her booty and not her beauty. A common mistake from a person who wasn't so common in this world. In a moment of sheer absurdity, he decided to end his immortality by driving a wooden stake into his own heart. After all, if his everlasting love revolved around one continuous game of deception, he figured he'd rather take his chances with the whole "till death do us part" thing. If I wanted to deal with this much nonsense, I could have just kept dating, he muttered. He muttered to himself as he made his final exit. If you like this story and how it was told, then please subscribe to the channel for more content like this. And I will see you in the next one. Goodbye!